columnist. Solange is also joining us with the newspapers. Perhaps not surprisingly, she's starting off with what is the world's largest trove of leaked offshore data. Of course, it's the Pandora Papers.
Yeah, and The Guardian, as well as hundreds of other media outlets. They went through some 11 million files and found hundreds of public officials, including dozens of heads of state, that they've been hiding billions of dollars. It is a secrecy that raises, the paper says, valid questions about confidentiality, privacy, and above all, public interest. Now, of these billions that are beyond reach, the Washington Post, it says that the Pandora Papers provide the most comprehensive accounting to date of a parallel financial universe whose corrosive effects can span generations, draining significant sums from governments and their citizens while shielding those that cheat and steal. And that is not going to change, as Le Soir says in its front page editorial, until there is a global political push to end such tax loopholes and that there be cash to police such frauds. Now, but the hope here is, with these global investigations, that this one has indeed sort of opened Pandora's box to stopping such fraud.
You mentioned those heads of state. There's 35 of them aren't there, Solange? From the King of Jordan to the Czech Prime Minister to Tony Blair.
Yeah, and among those names is Uhuru Kenyatta. The Kenyan paper The Star tells us he and his family has been linked in the Pandora Papers to 11 firms with assets amounting to some $30 million. And as the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, that's the organization that provides the leaked documents to journalists around the world, they explain that these sums may not be easy for Kenyans to swallow, as Kenyatta has long portrayed himself as a sort of anti-corruption advocate.
Let's talk about something completely new on the programme. Le Monde is publishing a tribune today about French women and children in camps in Syria. Now, it's been signed by 175 French lawmakers, the latter calling for the government to repatriate them.
Yeah, and there are currently some 200 children born of French nationals in camps in Syria, and the French government has for years refused to repatriate them because they are thought to be the children of jihadists. Well, as the open letter in Le Monde notes, many lawmakers are now taking a stand, saying that they need to be allowed back into France because they are innocent. They didn't ask to be born from jihadists, and that their mothers too should be brought back for security reasons, and in some cases be tried in France. Now, the plight of those in these camps is also being addressed in the New York Times today. It explains that 7 years after the Islamic State group took some 6,000 Yazidis hostage, some 3,000, or around half, still remain missing. Now, many of them are thought to be dead, but there are others that are still enslaved, as the Times tells us, with no help for Yazidi family members who are free to pay the ransoms for their family members, or even government help to find and free those that are still being held hostage.
Another French story for you. The French press bidding farewell to Bernard Tapie, who died on Sunday at the age of 78.
Yeah, and the face of the former politician, turned business tycoon, turned football club owner, well, it is splashed across the front pages of many French papers today. There are many tributes like that of La Provence. It says, adieu, boss, to the former owner of the city's football team. He's much loved in Marseille. Another tribute comes from Le Parisien. Today they have a 14-page spread that shows you the extent to which people do care for him in France, calling Tapie the fighter or an homage to a man, the paper notes, that was equally loved as he was detested. As a divisive figure, there are also a number of less glorious obituaries. Even in Marseille, the left-leaning La Marseillaise makes reference to the tycoon's legal difficulties, his time in prison, his role as a bankrupt businessman who lived a life of luxury in what it calls Tapie's light and dark, or in half-shadow existence.
Talking of luxury, it is Paris Fashion Week this week, but for this first in-person edition in the city since COVID. So some fashion houses are kind of doing things rather differently, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are doing things differently. And many are stepping actually away from the average pomp and elitism that comes with ideas of fashion weeks. As Le Parisien tells us, L'Oréal decided to invite anyone and pretty much everyone to its show, with the theme of which L'Oréal says is a tribute to women's emancipation. They say that applies to everyone, so everyone should be warmly invited. Hundreds of everyday citizens and fashion fans came out, as did as well famous faces, L'Oréal's beautiful faces. But that doesn't mean that they were necessarily mingling. The catwalk was split in two between those that are famous and those that are not. Now, Balenciaga, well, they decided to do things differently as well. The Guardian tells us in an article entitled
We were told we didn't do it well enough.
Yeah, you can
a couple
tell
of hours
I
ago.
don't watch The Simpsons because I don't know how to do it. The fashion house poked a bit of fun at itself by ditching their classic runway and doing a 10-minute catwalk episode of The Simpsons. If you didn't see that coming, it's The Simpsons. In this COVID times, they say it's time to ditch the pomp and the elitism of the fashion world, according to Balenciaga. The Guardian says that this rings in a whole new era of fashion where it's less about the clothes and more about the entertainment.
And more about the impressions as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Solange Mugin with the papers for us on France 24.